Her mother gave her away to marry a lonely count because she was ugly, but he truly loved her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Lily was always considered plain. Growing up in a world that valued beauty above all, she had always been told she was too plain, too ordinary, to be loved by anyone of significance. Her mother, desperate to secure a future for their struggling family, saw her daughter's lack of beauty as a flaw. And so, Lily's fate was sealed one chilly autumn afternoon, when her mother arranged for her to marry a lonely count, a man who had no interest in love or affection. The marriage was nothing more than a business transaction, a means to elevate their family's status. The count, a quiet and somber man, didn't care for her appearance, nor did he have any intention of nurturing love in their union. For him, Lily was merely a way to fulfill his duties, a dutiful wife who would provide the necessary heirs. The wedding was cold, with no joy or celebration. Lily walked down the aisle, her heart heavy with the knowledge that her life was being decided for her, and she was powerless to change it. As the guests whispered behind their fans, Lily's heart sank. She was not beautiful enough for love. She was not worthy of being loved for who she truly was. The count stood at the altar, his face a mask of indifference, his eyes barely meeting hers. The vows were said, the ring placed on her finger, and just like that, Lily became the Countess of Arundel, but she felt no pride in her title. There was no love in the marriage, only duty and resignation. Her mother's decision weighed heavily on her soul as she stepped into a future filled with loneliness. But what Lily did not know was that her life was about to take an unexpected turn. In the days following the wedding, she began to notice something strange about her husband. Though distant and quiet, there were moments when their eyes would meet in a way that made her feel seen. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but in those fleeting glances, Lily began to wonder if there could be more to this marriage than the duty she had resigned herself to. Could it be that the lonely count, the man she had married out of necessity, could find something in her worth loving? Could he see beyond her plain exterior? She would soon find out, but not in the way she expected. One evening, as the wind howled outside and the warmth of the fire flickered in the hearth, something shifted between them. The count, who had always been so distant, approached her in a way that made her pulse quicken. For the first time, he didn't look at her with cold indifference. He looked at her as if he saw something in her that he hadn't noticed before. Her heart raced, but it wasn't out of fear. It was something else, something new. In the weeks that followed, Lily's life began to change in ways she couldn't have predicted. As she got to know her husband, she realized that there was more to him than the lonely, distant man she had married. Slowly, but surely, he began to open up, and she began to see the man behind the title. The man who, despite his past, was capable of love. They shared quiet moments in the garden, conversations late into the night, and for the first time, Lily felt like she wasn't just a wife by name, but a woman who was truly valued. Her heart, which had been closed off for so long, began to soften. And so, as their relationship grew, Lily began to believe that perhaps there was a place for love in her life after all. As the days passed, Lily found herself in a world that she had never imagined. The cold, distant man she had married began to show sides of himself she never thought possible. Count Raymond, the man who had once been a stranger to her, was now a presence she couldn't ignore. The moments they shared, though brief and sometimes silent, began to build a quiet understanding between them. Their marriage, once filled with resignation, started to shift into something else. But Lily was not sure what it was yet. She had spent so long guarding her heart from disappointment that allowing herself to feel anything was both terrifying and exciting. There were moments when she caught Raymond watching her from across the room, his gaze lingering longer than usual, as if he were seeing her for the first time. She would quickly look away, not knowing how to respond to the emotions stirring inside her. One evening, after a quiet dinner, Raymond found Lily sitting by the fireplace, her eyes lost in thought. He approached her cautiously, as if unsure of his own feelings. Lily, he began, his voice soft but steady. I must confess something. His words hung in the air, and Lily's heart skipped a beat. Was he about to tell her that he had married her out of duty, not love? Was this the moment when he would admit that he had made a mistake? But Raymond's next words surprised her. I know I have been distant, and for that, I apologize. But I must also tell you that, over the past few weeks, I have come to realize something. You are not what I expected, Lily. You are far more than what I imagined. You have a kindness, a strength that I have never seen in anyone else. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Could it be? Could this cold, indifferent man truly see her? She turned her face to him, her heart racing. You see me? She asked, her voice trembling. He nodded slowly. Yes, I do. And I find myself wanting to know you more. Not just as my wife, but as a person. The vulnerability in his voice made her feel something she had never allowed herself to feel. Hope. But how can you see me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. How can you see past the woman I was before? The woman who was nothing more than a tool to secure an alliance. Raymond's eyes softened, and he took a step closer to her. I see a woman who has endured far more than anyone should. I see someone who has been hurt, but who still has the courage to stand tall, despite it all. Lily felt her chest tighten with emotion. She had always felt like a burden to Raymond, but here he was, seeing her, truly seeing her for the first time. For the first time, she wondered if she could allow herself to believe in the possibility of love. Their quiet moments continued, and with each passing day, Lily and Raymond grew closer. The walls they had both built around their hearts slowly began to crumble. Raymond no longer saw her as a mere obligation, but as a woman worth his time, his attention, and his respect. And Lily, who had once feared being nothing more than a pawn in a game she didn't understand, now found herself wondering if there was more to their marriage than she had ever imagined. But just as she began to allow herself to hope, a letter arrived. It was from her mother, and its contents shook Lily to her core. Her mother, desperate to secure her future, had written to remind her of the true reason for her marriage. Remember, Lily, the letter read, you were never meant to find love in this marriage. It was always about duty. Do not forget that. The words felt like a slap to Lily's face. Could she ever escape her mother's expectations? Could she allow herself to be loved by Raymond, even if her mother's words still echoed in her mind? The storm of doubt that had been brewing inside her only grew stronger. She tried to push the letter from her mind, but it lingered, haunting her thoughts. Was she truly free to feel love, or was she still bound by the chains of her past, by her mother's influence? The next day, she found herself standing in the garden, the weight of the letter pressing down on her shoulders. She heard footsteps behind her, and when she turned, she found Raymond standing there, his eyes full of concern. Lily, he said gently, what is troubling you? She hesitated, unsure of how to explain the turmoil inside her. It's nothing, she finally said, trying to force a smile. But Raymond wasn't fooled. He stepped closer, taking her hand in his. You can tell me, he said softly. You don't have to carry this burden alone. His words, his touch, felt like a lifeline. And in that moment, Lily realized that she didn't have to face her doubts alone. She had Raymond. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could allow herself to believe in a love she had never thought possible. As the days passed, their relationship continued to grow, and Lily began to feel something she had never felt before, a sense of belonging, a sense of peace. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that love might just be the most unexpected and beautiful part of their marriage. The days that followed were filled with quiet moments that spoke louder than any words could. Lily had come to learn that her marriage to Raymond was no longer just a duty. It had become a bond, fragile yet growing stronger with every passing day. The once cold, distant man had transformed into someone she could rely on, someone who truly saw her, not as a tool for an alliance, but as a person of value. Raymond, for the first time, seemed to understand the depth of her struggles, and Lily began to see a warmth in him that was as unexpected as it was comforting. Their conversations, once stiff and forced, now flowed with ease. They talked of things both small and significant, from the weather to their hopes for the future. Lily had started to believe that their marriage could be more than just a political arrangement. It could be a partnership built on trust, respect, and perhaps even love. But the road ahead was not without its challenges. One afternoon, as they sat together in the garden, Raymond grew quiet, his gaze distant, as though lost in thought. Lily, sensing the shift, looked up at him. "Raymond, what's on your mind?" she asked softly, her voice carrying a note of concern. He turned to her, his eyes filled with something she couldn't quite place, before he spoke. "I've been thinking about the future, about what comes next for us." His words hung in the air, and Lily's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that he was finally seeing her, not just as a wife, but as a partner in every sense? "What do you mean?" she asked, unsure of how to navigate the sudden tension in the air. Raymond's expression softened. "I've been so focused on the responsibilities of my title that I've forgotten what it means to live a life. I want to change that, Lily. I want to change this marriage, to make it something real, not just a duty to the family." His words were like a balm to Lily's heart, and for the first time, she felt the weight of the years of loneliness lifting from her shoulders. "You've been more than a duty to me, Raymond," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You've become someone I never expected, someone I could trust, someone I could share my life with." The words hung in the air between them, a truth they had both known but had yet to fully acknowledge. But just as things seemed to settle into a new, hopeful rhythm, a shadow from the past arrived to complicate matters. One morning, a letter arrived for Lily, addressed in the familiar, yet impersonal handwriting of her mother. The contents of the letter made her blood run cold. Her mother, ever the pragmatist, reminded Lily of the true purpose of her marriage, to secure the family's position, to fulfill her duty as the Countess of Arundel. "You are to remain in this marriage, Lily," the letter read. "It was never about love. Do not forget your place." The words stung, and for a moment, Lily felt as though she were back at the beginning, trapped in the role her mother had always intended for her. She crumpled the letter in her hands, the reality of her mother's expectations weighing heavily on her. Could she truly build a life with Raymond, a life she had come to cherish, when her own family still saw her as nothing more than a pawn in their game of power? That afternoon, as she stood by the window, staring out at the garden, Raymond appeared behind her. His voice was gentle, but there was an edge of concern in it. "Lily, what's wrong? You've been distant lately." She hesitated, unsure of how to share the burden she had been carrying. "It's nothing, Raymond," she replied, forcing a smile. "Just some things I've been thinking about." But Raymond wasn't fooled. He stepped closer, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. "Lily, you don't have to hide anything from me. You've been through so much already. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." She looked up at him, her heart swelling with the sincerity in his eyes. This was the man she had come to trust, the man who had shown her that love could be more than just a fantasy. She had spent so long feeling like an outsider in her own life, but with Raymond, she felt seen, heard, and understood. And yet, the letter from her mother still haunted her thoughts. Could she truly escape the expectations of her past? Could she forge a future with Raymond that was built on love, not duty? As the days passed, the tension between Lily's desire for freedom and the reality of her family's expectations grew. She knew that she couldn't ignore the letter, but she also knew that Raymond had shown her a different kind of life, a life filled with possibility and hope. One evening, as they sat together by the fire, Raymond took her hand in his voice filled with determination. "Lily, I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I want you by my side. I don't want this marriage to be about anything other than us. We have the power to make it our own, to choose our path." His words were like a promise, a vow to stand together in the face of whatever challenges lay ahead. And in that moment, Lily realized that the choice was hers to make. She could no longer let the past dictate her future. She had the power to choose the life she wanted, and that life, she knew, was with Raymond. The days that followed were filled with moments of quiet reflection, as Lily began to realize the depth of the choice she had before her. The letter from her mother still weighed heavily on her heart, reminding her of the duty she had been born into, the duty she could never escape. But Raymond's words, his promise, kept echoing in her mind. We have the power to make it our own, to choose our path. As the days grew colder and the nights longer, Lily found herself spending more time in the garden, her thoughts swirling with the weight of her past and the uncertainty of her future. It was there, amidst the cold, with the wind biting at her skin, that she found herself standing beside Raymond once again, their silence filled with a tension that neither of them could deny. Raymond had always been a man of few words, but today there was something in his eyes, something that spoke of hope, of dreams, and of a future he wanted to build with her. "Lily," he said quietly, his voice steady yet filled with an emotion she hadn't heard before. "I know that things are difficult, and I know you are torn between your past and what we could have together. But I want you to know that no matter what, I am here. I want you with me, Lily. I want us to be a family." The words hit her like a wave, overwhelming and yet comforting at the same time. For the first time, she allowed herself to fully embrace the possibility of a future with him, a future built on more than just obligation and duty. It was a future where love could exist, where they could be more than just husband and wife in name, but true partners, bound by something deeper. But as much as she wanted to believe in that future, the weight of her mother's expectations still lingered in her mind. How could she break free from a lifetime of obligation? How could she choose Raymond over the family that had always controlled her every move? Those questions gnawed at her as she looked up at him, her heart torn between the love she was beginning to feel for him and the duty that had been ingrained in her since birth. Raymond, sensing her hesitation, reached for her hand, his touch gentle yet firm. "I know this isn't easy," he said, his voice soft but filled with determination. "But I believe in us, Lily. I believe in what we have together. You don't have to choose between me and your family. You deserve a life of your own, a life where you are loved for who you are, not just for what you can do for others." His words were like a balm to the wounds that had festered in her heart for so long. And for the first time, Lily allowed herself to believe in the possibility of a life beyond the constraints of her past. The next few days were filled with moments of quiet understanding, as Raymond and Lily spent more time together, not just as husband and wife, but as two people discovering each other anew. They talked about their hopes, their dreams, and the life they wanted to build together. Each conversation, each shared moment, only brought them closer. But as their bond deepened, the tension between them and the world around them began to grow. Lily knew that her mother's expectations would not be so easily dismissed. She would have to confront the past she had been running from and make a decision that would change everything. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Lily finally found the courage to speak the words that had been swirling in her mind for so long. "Raymond," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About us. And about the future." He turned to her, his expression serious, his full attention on her. "And what have you decided?" he asked, his voice gentle but filled with anticipation. Lily took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "I want to be with you," she said finally, the words flowing out with a sense of finality. "I want a future with you, Raymond. A future where we are not just bound by duty, but by love." Raymond's face softened, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. He reached out to take her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Then that's all that matters," he said, his voice filled with relief. "We will face everything together, Lily. Whatever comes, we will face it as a team." Lily smiled, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace. She had made her decision. The past could no longer control her. The future was hers to create, and she was ready to build it with Raymond by her side. But as they sat together, the fire crackling between them, Lily knew that the road ahead would not be without challenges. Her mother's influence would not simply disappear, and there would be obstacles to overcome. Yet, in that moment, Lily felt a glimmer of hope, a hope that, with Raymond's love and support, she could finally break free from the chains of her past and build a life of her own, one that was filled with love, not duty. As the days passed, Lily and Raymond's bond grew stronger. They were no longer just two people tied together by circumstance. They were partners, equal in their love and their dreams. And with each passing day, Lily's heart opened more to the possibility of a future she had once thought impossible. A future where love was not only possible, but was the very foundation of everything they had built together. As weeks passed, Lily and Raymond's life together began to settle into a new rhythm, one that was far from perfect, but filled with promise and hope. Their relationship, once founded on duty and obligation, had blossomed into something more genuine, something rooted in respect and understanding. They spent quiet evenings together, sharing stories from their pasts, building a connection that was as deep as it was unexpected. The shadow of Lily's past, particularly her mother's expectations, still loomed over her, but with Raymond by her side, she felt stronger, more determined to live for herself rather than for the approval of others. Yet, even as their bond grew, Lily could not fully shake the unease that still clung to her heart. The weight of her mother's words, the reminder that her marriage was never meant to be about love, was a constant presence in the back of her mind. One evening, as they walked through the gardens, Lily found herself lost in thought, her eyes fixed on the flowers that Raymond had lovingly planted. "Raymond," she began, her voice hesitant, "I still can't shake the feeling that I'm betraying everything I've been taught, that I'm doing something wrong by choosing by choosing you." Raymond stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression serious but gentle. "Lily, you are not betraying anyone. You are choosing happiness, and that is something no one should ever make you feel guilty for." His words, simple as they were, struck a chord deep within her. For so long, she had believed that her happiness was secondary, that her duty to her family was the most important thing. But now, standing before Raymond, she realized that she had the right to choose her own path. "But my mother," Lily began, but Raymond gently cut her off. "Your mother's expectations are not yours to carry anymore. You are your own person, Lily, and you deserve to live a life that makes you happy, not one that pleases others." His words, though comforting, left her with a deep sense of conflict. How could she fully embrace this new life, this new love, when so much of her past still held her in place? The storm of doubt that had been brewing inside her grew stronger, but Lily knew that this was a battle she had to fight for herself. She had to decide whether she would continue to live in the shadow of her past, or whether she would finally step into the light of the life she had the power to create. The following days were filled with contemplation, as Lily wrestled with her emotions. She spent more time in the quiet corners of the estate, reflecting on what she truly wanted. As much as she loved Raymond, as much as she had come to rely on him, she knew that she could not build her life entirely on his love alone. She had to find the strength within herself to live for her own dreams, to carve out a future that was hers to shape. One afternoon, as she sat by the window, looking out over the sprawling estate, she heard a knock at the door. It was Raymond, holding a small, wrapped package in his hands. "I thought you might like something to cheer you up," he said, his voice warm and inviting. She smiled, feeling a sense of warmth spread through her chest. Raymond had always been thoughtful, always attentive to her needs. But today, something about his gesture felt different. It wasn't just the gift itself, but the fact that he had taken the time to think of her, to think about what she might need in that moment. "Thank you," she said softly, taking the package from him. As she unwrapped it, she found a small, delicate locket, intricately designed with a small engraving on the back. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her fingers tracing the delicate design. "There's more to it," Raymond said, his voice low and tender. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. It was a note, a simple message that read, "For the love we will create, together, every step of the way." Lily's heart skipped a beat as she read the words. She had never imagined that a gift could hold such meaning, such depth. Raymond's gesture, so simple yet so profound, made her realize something. She had been holding on to her past for so long, letting it control her every decision, that she had forgotten the importance of living for the present. She looked up at Raymond, meeting his gaze, and for the first time, she truly saw him. Not as the man who had once been a stranger, not as the man who had married her out of duty, but as the man who had become her partner, her equal, and her love. "I want this," she said quietly, her voice steady. "I want to build a future with you, Raymond. A future where we are not bound by the past, but by the love we share." Raymond smiled, his eyes filled with a quiet happiness. "Then we will, Lily. We will build that future together, one step at a time." And in that moment, Lily felt a sense of peace settle over her. She had made her decision. She would not live for her past any longer. She would live for the life she could create with Raymond, for the love they shared, and for the future that awaited them. With Raymond by her side, she knew she was no longer just the woman defined by duty. She was Lily, a woman capable of choosing her own path, a woman deserving of love, and a woman ready to embrace the future. As the days passed, Lily and Raymond's lives began to take on a new sense of normalcy. But with that normalcy came a deeper understanding of the challenges they would face together. Their relationship, once built on duty and obligation, had transformed into something rooted in genuine love and trust. Yet, despite this growing connection, the shadows of the past continued to linger. Lily, for all her newfound hope, was still haunted by the expectations of her mother and the weight of the life she had been forced into. Her mother's letter, though it had lost some of its power over her, still echoed in the back of her mind, a constant reminder of the life she had been expected to live. But Raymond's unwavering support and affection gave her the strength to push forward, to build a life that was truly her own. One evening, after a quiet dinner, Lily found herself staring out the window at the sprawling estate, her thoughts once again drifting to the life her mother had planned for her. Raymond, sensing her unrest, quietly walked up behind her and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Lily," he began, his voice filled with the tenderness she had come to cherish. "I know you're still carrying the weight of your past, but I want you to know that you don't have to face it alone. We're in this together." His words, though simple, struck a chord deep within her, and for the first time, she felt a sense of peace. She had spent so many years carrying the burden of her mother's expectations, but now, with Raymond beside her, she felt as though she had the strength to face whatever came next. "I'm so grateful for you, Raymond," Lily said quietly, her voice thick with emotion. "For everything you've done for me. You've shown me a kind of love I never thought possible." Raymond smiled softly, his eyes filled with affection. "You've shown me, too, Lily. You've taught me what it means to love without expectations, to love for the sake of love itself." His words made her heart swell, and she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the man who had slowly become her world. As the days turned into weeks, Lily found herself growing more confident in her choices, more secure in her place by Raymond's side. They spent long hours talking, planning, and dreaming about the future. Raymond, who had once been distant and closed off, now shared his hopes and fears with her, allowing her to see the man behind the title, the man who was capable of love and tenderness. And Lily, who had once believed that her life would be defined by duty, now realized that she had the power to choose her own path. But despite the growing strength of their bond, the shadow of Lily's mother loomed large. It was a presence that could not be easily dismissed, and Lily knew that eventually, she would have to confront her past head-on. One afternoon, as they sat together in the library, Lily received another letter from her mother. She hesitated before opening it, knowing that the contents would once again try to dictate her future. When she read the letter, her heart sank. Her mother's words were harsh, cold, and demanding, reminding her once again of the duty she had been born to fulfill. "Lily," the letter began, "you have been given a life of privilege, a life that many would envy. Do not waste it by chasing fantasies. You were married to Count Raymond for a reason, and you must fulfill your role as his wife. The family needs you." Lily felt the familiar sting of her mother's expectations, but this time, something inside her shifted. She had spent so long trying to live up to the impossible standards set by her mother, but now, for the first time, she felt the strength to defy them. She folded the letter carefully, setting it aside. She didn't need to read any more. Raymond had given her something that her mother never could, a life of her own, a life filled with love and possibility. That evening, as they sat together by the fire, Raymond could sense that something had changed in Lily. "What's on your mind, my love?" he asked gently, his eyes searching hers. Lily took a deep breath, gathering the courage to speak the truth. "I've been thinking about my mother," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "and about the life she's always wanted for me. But I've realized that I don't want that life anymore. I don't want to be the woman she's always expected me to be. I want to live my own life, with you by my side." Raymond's eyes softened with understanding, and he reached out to take her hand in his. "Lily," he said quietly, "you are your own person. You always have been. And no matter what anyone else says, I will love you for who you are, not for what others expect you to be." His words filled her with a sense of peace, and for the first time, she felt truly free. She had chosen this life, this love, and she was no longer going to let anyone, not even her mother, dictate her future. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you for giving me the strength to choose this. Raymond smiled, his heart full of love for the woman he had come to adore. We'll face whatever comes together, Lily. Always. And in that moment, as she looked into his eyes, Lily knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a team. Together, they would build the future they had always dreamed of, a future where love was the foundation of everything they did. The days grew longer, and with each passing day, Lily and Raymond's connection deepened in ways neither of them could have predicted. The choice Lily had made to stand by Raymond, to build a future with him, was beginning to feel more like the right one, with every quiet moment they shared. Yet, as the seasons changed, so did the realities of their life together. Lily was no longer just the dutiful wife expected to uphold her family's name. She had become her own woman, capable of making decisions and embracing the future she desired. But with this new freedom came new challenges. Lily's mother, despite her initial attempts to control Lily's life, could not seem to let go of her influence. Letters arrived with increasing frequency, each one a reminder of the life Lily had been born into, a life filled with expectations, duty, and responsibility. And yet, Lily had found something more in Raymond, something she had never believed possible: true companionship, love, and the chance to live on her own terms. It was one morning, as they sat together in the quiet of the estate, that Raymond noticed the unease that had begun to cloud Lily's expression. He reached across the table, his hand covering hers, a silent reassurance that he was there, as he had always been. "Lily," he said softly, his voice steady, "I can see it in your eyes. What's troubling you?" Lily hesitated, unsure whether to voice the lingering doubt that had taken root in her heart. But Raymond's steady gaze encouraged her, and she found herself speaking before she could stop. "It's my mother," she said quietly, her voice thick with emotion. "She's still trying to control my life, even from afar. I can feel her expectations weighing on me, pulling me back to the person I used to be, the person I never wanted to be." Raymond squeezed her hand, his thumb gently brushing over her knuckles. "You don't have to let her pull you back, Lily," he said, his voice soft but firm. "You are not the person she wanted you to be. You are not her pawn. You are my partner, and we've made our own path." Lily's heart ached at the tenderness in his words. He was right, of course. She had made the choice to be with him, to live her life on her own terms. But the fear of disappointing her mother, of failing to live up to the expectations that had shaped her life for so long, was a difficult thing to shake. "I know," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But it's so hard to let go of everything I've been taught. My mother, my family, they've always been the ones to decide what's best for me. And now, with you, I'm learning to make my own decisions. It's just hard." Raymond nodded, his expression one of understanding. "I know it is," he said gently. "But you don't have to do this alone, Lily. I'm here. I will always be here, by your side. And whatever you choose, we will face it together." His words were a balm to her troubled soul, and for the first time in a long while, Lily felt a sense of peace settle over her. She had spent so long fighting the expectations of others, trying to meet their standards, that she had forgotten what it meant to live for herself. And now, standing beside Raymond, she realized that she had the power to choose. She always had. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for believing in me, for seeing me for who I am, not just for what I can do for others." Raymond smiled, his eyes filled with affection. "Lily," he said, his voice filled with warmth, "you are the most remarkable woman I know. And you deserve to live a life that makes you happy, a life where you are free to be yourself, not just a reflection of someone else's expectations." Lily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them away, unwilling to show any weakness. She had come so far, and with Raymond by her side, she knew she could continue to grow, to become the woman she had always been meant to be. The path ahead was not without challenges, but for the first time, she felt ready to face them. She was no longer just a dutiful wife. She was Lily, a woman with her own dreams, her own desires, and a future to build with the man she loved. As the weeks turned into months, Lily's confidence grew. The letters from her mother still came, but they no longer held the same power over her. She had come to realize that her mother's expectations, though they would always be there, did not have to define her. She had chosen a new path, one that led to happiness, fulfillment, and love. And Raymond, as always, stood by her side, his love a constant source of strength and comfort. One evening, as they stood together on the balcony of their home, looking out over the sprawling gardens, Lily turned to Raymond, her heart full. "I never thought I could be this happy," she said softly, her voice full of wonder. Raymond smiled, pulling her close. "Neither did I," he admitted. "But together, we've built something beautiful. And I'm not going to let anything take that away." Lily looked up at him, her heart overflowing with love. She had chosen this life, this love, and she knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, as partners, as equals, and as a family. The future was theirs to create, and with Raymond by her side, Lily felt ready to take on the world. The months passed, and with each day that passed, Lily and Raymond's bond only grew stronger. They had come a long way from the cold, distant marriage they had once shared. What had once been a duty now felt like a partnership built on mutual respect, affection, and love. Raymond had not only become her husband in name, but also her closest confidant, her protector, and her greatest supporter. They had faced their doubts, their fears, and their pasts, and together, they had built something real, something that neither of them had expected but both deeply cherished. Yet, even as their love blossomed, life had a way of throwing challenges their way. Lily's mother had continued to write, each letter more insistent than the last, reminding Lily of the duty she owed her family, urging her to return to the role they had always envisioned for her. But Lily had long since stopped feeling the pull of her mother's demands. She had chosen a different path, one that was shaped by love, not obligation. One day, as the warmth of summer spread across the estate, Lily and Raymond found themselves sitting together in the garden, enjoying the peace they had fought so hard to find. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees, and the scent of blooming flowers filled the air. It was the kind of afternoon that made everything seem right in the world. But as Lily sat beside Raymond, she felt a shift in the air, a quiet tension that had begun to build inside her once again. She had made her decision, but there was one last hurdle she needed to face. "Raymond," she began softly, her voice barely more than a whisper, "I've been thinking about my mother. I know she's not going to stop. I know she's going to keep pushing, keep trying to pull me back into the life I've left behind." Raymond looked at her with understanding in his eyes. He had always known how deeply the weight of her family's expectations had burdened her, even after all this time. "Lily," he said gently, "you don't owe her anything. You have built a life with me, a life that is yours to shape, a life that is ours together. You've already chosen this path. No one can take that away from you." His words, as always, were a source of comfort, but Lily still felt the tug of her past, the pull of the family she had left behind. It was as if part of her was still trying to hold on to what she had known, even though she knew it would never bring her the happiness she had found with Raymond. "But what if I'm making a mistake?" Lily's voice trembled slightly as she spoke. "What if, by choosing this life, I'm rejecting everything my family taught me? What if they were right all along?" Raymond reached out and took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "Lily," he said, his voice filled with certainty, "your family's path was never meant to be your path. You are not bound to a life that doesn't bring you joy. You are not meant to live for someone else's expectations. You deserve a life that is full of love, a life where you can be yourself, and a life where you are free to choose what makes you happy." His words resonated deeply within her, and for the first time, Lily felt the weight of her past begin to lift. She had spent so long living for others, trying to fulfill the expectations of her family, that she had forgotten what it meant to live for herself. Now, standing by Raymond's side, she realized that she had the power to choose her own future. "I know you're right," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "But it's hard to let go. I've been carrying this burden for so long, and I don't know how to stop." Raymond smiled softly, his eyes filled with love and compassion. "You don't have to do it alone, Lily. You have me. We will face everything together, just as we always have. And whatever happens, I will stand by you." His words, so simple, yet so profound, brought tears to Lily's eyes. She had never imagined she could find someone who would love her so completely, who would accept her for who she was, flaws and all. In that moment, Lily knew that the choice she had made was the right one. She had chosen Raymond, and in doing so, She had chosen a life of love, freedom, and happiness. The road ahead would not always be easy. There would still be challenges to face, moments of doubt, and the lingering influence of her family's expectations. But as long as she had Raymond by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they had already built something beautiful, something that was theirs alone. And now, more than ever, Lily was ready to embrace the future they would create together. With a sense of peace settling over her, Lily turned to Raymond, her heart full. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. "For everything. For showing me what true love really is." Raymond pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her, offering the comfort and security she had always longed for. "You don't have to thank me, Lily," he whispered. "I love you, and I always will." As they stood together in the garden, the world around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, bound by love, ready to face whatever the future held. With Raymond by her side, Lily knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as partners, as equals, and as a family. As the years passed, the love between Lily and Raymond only deepened. They had created a life together that was filled with warmth, understanding, and above all, love. The road they had traveled had not always been easy, but it had been their road, and they had walked it hand in hand, facing every challenge together. There were still letters from Lily's mother, still reminders of the life she had once been expected to live, but with each passing day, Lily found that her confidence in her choices grew. She no longer felt the pull of obligation, no longer questioned whether she was living the life she had been meant to live. She had built this life with Raymond, and it was the life she wanted, the life she had chosen. Together, they had transformed what had once been a marriage of duty into a marriage of love and companionship. It was in the quiet moments, the shared glances, the gentle touches, that Lily truly realized the depth of their bond. One evening, as they sat together by the fireplace, Raymond turned to Lily, his expression thoughtful. "Lily," he said, his voice steady, "I've been thinking about everything we've been through, about how far we've come. And I realize now that all I ever really needed was you. You've made this life more than I ever thought possible." Lily's heart swelled at his words, and she reached out to take his hand. "I feel the same way," she said softly. "I never thought I could have the kind of love we share. I never thought I could have a life that was mine, that was filled with so much joy." Raymond smiled, his eyes full of affection. "We've created something beautiful, Lily. Together, we've made a life that is ours. And I wouldn't change a thing." The truth in his words resonated deeply within her. The life they had built was something she had never dreamed possible. They had both given up parts of themselves to find their way to each other, but in doing so, they had gained something far more valuable. They had gained each other, a love that was unconditional and true. And with that love, they had built a foundation that could withstand anything. As time went on, their bond only grew stronger. They found joy in the small moments, the quiet mornings spent in each other's company, the laughter they shared over simple jokes, the way their hearts beat in sync when they were together. It was a love that had transcended everything, and it was a love that would continue to grow with each passing year. They faced the world together, not as two people bound by duty, but as two people who had found something rare and precious, a love that was built on trust, respect, and the willingness to fight for each other. And as they stood side by side, facing the future together, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a team. Because in the end, they had found what they had both been searching for all along. A love that was not just a choice, but a destiny. Together, they had created a life that was theirs, a life that was filled with love, and that was all that mattered.